Welcome to the second video in this series of New Year, New Job. If you didn't watch the first video yet about preparing your resume, then go here and watch it now because it's a good precursor to this video. Now we're going to talk about preparing your portfolio. Now, having a good portfolio is essential to getting hired. A portfolio really helps demonstrate your skills, show your work experience and history, gives you an opportunity to talk about projects you've done and go deep into case studies, and also helps the hiring manager just generally get to know you better as a person. Just like we talked about in the video on creating your resume, your portfolio is likely to be viewed as one amongst the crowd of potentially hundreds of other portfolios. Now, the hiring manager will probably spend anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes maximum, looking at your portfolio. So you want to consider their time and make it easy for them to navigate, and also make sure it's also accessible. If your portfolio takes too long to load, is difficult to navigate, or maybe has text that's too light to read, I'm likely to move on very, very quickly. So just consider the accessibility and navigation of your portfolio. Now, I do recommend having your portfolio as a website. This not only makes it searchable if I'm trying to search for information about you, it also makes it shareable so I can share it amongst my team, and it also makes it easy for you as the designer and the owner of this portfolio to keep it up to date and maintain it. I've seen some people use websites like Dribbble or Behance as their portfolio. Now, I think that those websites are great for posting and sharing your work, but I don't think these are good as standalone portfolio websites. Often they lack depth and clarity, and it also just doesn't seem as professional if you don't have your own website. Now, the tool that I personally recommend you use for your portfolio is Webflow. This is the tool that I use for all of my websites. It's very flexible, they have custom templates. It gives you a lot of freedom and control over how you want to present your work and manage your site. Not sponsored at all. I genuinely use them and I genuinely love the tool. 3 key things to have on your portfolio website. First is the About section. This is almost the first thing I go to when I go to a portfolio because I want to learn more about you and who you are as a person. I do also recommend having in your About section a link to your resume so that I can download it and get sort of the TLDR version of you and your work history. Number 2, contact. If I want to get in touch with you and work with you, make it easy for me to do that. Too often I've seen portfolios that bury their contact details, or would you believe it, don't have a way to contact them at all. So please have at least a contact form or your email address somewhere on your site that I can easily find. Third section is the work. Now, this is the nitty-gritty section, so let's get into some depth here. Goes without saying, I'm coming to your portfolio to look at the work that you have done. Now, let's talk a little bit about how to structure this work. I recommend 3 to 5 case studies on your portfolio. Any more just gets too long, any less doesn't seem super impressive. Go for quality over quantity here. Any poor projects or poor case studies are really going to bring down my overall impression of you and your work. So only put your most proud work up on your website. Now, I'm often gravitated towards clicking on the first case study that you have listed, so make sure this is a good one. Put the project you are most proud of and that best displays your skills and your talents as a designer as the very first project. Go big or go home, right? You want to impress me. Don't include only student work or only work from one company. Diversity in a portfolio shows skill and experience. And by diversity here, I'm talking about different kind of projects and different companies that you've worked for. I do think that you should be specific in terms of the discipline of design that you have strength and skill in. For example, I do encourage all of your projects to be product design or UX design focused. If you're an illustrator, for example, and going for illustration jobs, have all of your case studies and projects be illustration focused. If you don't have diverse experience, then go out there and get it. You could try freelancing, you could work on a side project, you could do a project for a friend or a family member. Go out there and see if you can find something that will help diversify your portfolio a little bit. Now, I've had some people in the past come to me and ask what they should do if they have a project that's either really confidential or under NDA with the client. Now, in this case, I recommend going to the client and asking if they might be able to come to an agreement of you having a case study about the project, but behind a password. That way it's password protected. You only give the password out to people that you trust, or like hiring managers that you trust and you're really serious about applying for. That way you still have an opportunity to present the work, but it's just not public. Now, for each project, I recommend going deep and writing a case study. It's nice to have final fancy visualizations of your work, but this doesn't tell me much about the story of what your design process was and how you actually created these concepts. So while I do recommend including the final visuals of your work, I also highly and strongly recommend that you document your design process and write detailed case studies about that project. So how do you do this? This is a whole nother big juicy topic, writing case studies, but I'll give you sort of like the sprinkled version for now. You want to walk through the whole design process from start to finish, beginning with the problem. What was the problem that you were trying to solve, and how did you go about solving this? What were the goals that were set? What were the methodologies that you used? Who did you work with? Engineers, data scientists, researchers? How did working with those people contribute to the decisions that you made in the design? I want to see explorations, I want to see wireframes, I want to see decisions that you made. Basically, pretend that you are narrating your whole design process as you went through the project, but a condensed and summarized version of it. That's what I want to know. It's basically a behind the scenes of your project. So don't be afraid to show wireframes, photos of you working, explorations. All of that is really, really helpful for me to understand how you work and how you got to the final outcome. A pro tip here is to make sure that you caption any images that you're sharing, because this helps give context to the image that I'm looking at. Now that you have your case studies and you've structured those case studies and projects nicely, let's talk about the overall structure and presentation of your portfolio website. Typography is important, especially as a designer. I am going to be judging the design of your website. Sorry, but it is true. So make sure that you've considered the typography, you're using complementary fonts, you have nice font pairings, font sizing, paragraph spacing, etc., etc. Make sure that it's legible. Because this is a website, check for accessibility. This is things like color contrasts, visual cues, and focus states. There's actually a really, really great resource by W3 that talks a lot about web accessibility. There's also a really nice article on Medium written by Pablo Stanley that kind of has the TLDR version of what you should consider when it comes to web accessibility. I'll link those in the description. Make sure you check those out. Please have high resolution images of your work. Too often I've stumbled on portfolios that just have really poor, low resolution, low quality renders of the final design. And this is such a shame. It really puts a damper on the work and it just doesn't help me understand what the outcome was. Make sure you have good alignment. Things are bottom aligned, center aligned, whichever alignment you're going for, make sure it's aligned and distributed well. And then also make sure that you have adequate margins. It just makes my skin crawl when I see websites where like the sentences literally run like width to width. Give some margins there, okay? Please let it breathe. Lastly, check your website on a mobile device. I am likely going to be looking at it on my desktop, but you never know. There is a chance that I might be looking at it on mobile, and if your mobile experience is not good, that's not a good impression. So remember, keep your portfolio clean, easy to navigate, and accessible. 3 case studies is what I recommend, but if you have to, you could go up to 5 or 6. Find yourself a good portfolio tool. For me, I like to use Webflow. Find a tool that lets you host and create your site and makes it really, really easy for you to manage and update in the future. Make sure it's easy for me to contact you and put some effort into the layout and presentation of your site. This is your opportunity to flex your skills as a designer, and I am going to be judging you. Once you've created your portfolio, if you like, you can put it in the comments below. I'll check it out. It could also be an inspiration for other people watching this video to check out. I'd love to see it. In the next video in this series, we're going to be talking about applying for the job. So you have your resume ready, your portfolio is ready. Now you just have to prepare your application and apply. We'll be talking all about that in the next video. Go check it out. Thank you for watching.